When I hear these things like, oh, Africans don't like us, it's usually coming from Black American men. I got excited there. Envy and jealousy is usually rooted in a lack of self-esteem. The way that hip hop has done a disservice to African Americans in terms of how people perceive us, it's been very detrimental. This Medea character, Africans will watch these things and really think that that's us. Oh, so you are nigga. Come on now, wait a minute. Whoever is funding the Ministry of Education in their country, that's the curriculum that they learn. And I remember them saying to me, I wish my ancestors had been taken. How you move through the world in the US, perceived here it will be perceived as cocky. So to address the matter at hand, I hope to dead this once and for all. Do Africans hate African Americans? Welcome to BLAXIT to Africa. I'm Tadre Delore Monye, a California native living my best life in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for coming along for the ride. I hope that you are informed, entertained, and inspired to BLAXIT to Africa. Do Africans hate African Americans? Let's dead this once and for all. The short answer is no, they do not. There's a few things that I want to cover in this episode. One, types of Africans as it relates to how they feel about African Americans. 2, perception. 3, economic tension. 4, the past. And 5, the way forward. All right, let's get into the types of Africans as it relates to how they feel about African Americans. And this is from my unique perspective, my unique lens, what I've witnessed vicariously and personally in this body with this packaging. The first type of African, and this would be the majority as it relates to this subject, is indifferent. These people are much more concerned with their lives, their community, their family, and they're really not concerned with what's happening to African Americans in the US. They're really unconcerned with African Americans that are immigrating to Africa because it has little bearing on them. Okay, there are some exceptions. We see some displacement and gentrification happening in Accra, Ghana, different parts of Africa where Africans in the diaspora are returning home, not just African Americans, but people of African descent in Europe, people of African descent in the Caribbean, Africans who have been continentally born but making their coin in the global north. And I'll be honest with you, this indifference for me has been a bit hurtful because in my circles of artists and activists, politicos, PanAfricans, we are always so concerned with what's happening to Black people around the world, what's happening to Indigenous people around the world, people of color, people who are marginalized around the world. And then when you look up and you see that folks are really unconcerned, it can be a bit hurtful. But it's the reality. People are very entrenched in their day-to-day lives of survival and also of their legacy. The second type of African, which is a smaller percentage, is Pan-African. Now, there's different types of Pan-African, and some you might say, well, this defies the definition of Pan-African. But there are different types of Pan-African, and it's a much smaller population or percentage than those that are indifferent. I wish I could give you a number, but I don't know if there's any research out there that will point to the amount of Africans that identify as Pan-African. Now, the Pan-African, yes, they are about it, and they are concerned with our well-being. They are concerned with us thriving. These are the people that you will meet on the ground that will tell you, welcome home. I've received a lot of welcome homes in West Africa, primarily in Ghana. A lot of that is fueled by economic need. What you want, what you trying to get from me, right? But then there's that genuine welcome home that you get when you're least suspecting it. I was taking an overnight bus ride from Kampala, Uganda to Kigali, Rwanda. This is East Africa. We have very little ancestry tied to East Africa. And I'm on this bus and I ain't really said nothing to nobody. This man is sitting behind me. He ain't said nothing to me. When we arrived in Kigali in the morning, This beautiful, tall man got up and he turned back and looked at me and he said, "Welcome home. This is your home." And that was the welcome home I did not know that I needed in that moment. I did not come to Africa looking for acceptance, looking for an acknowledgement. I came for a change in lifestyle. And when he said that to me, it just made me emotional. And even on the bus ride, I was just looking out at the beauty of Africa, of Uganda, of Rwanda. And in my head, I was thinking, this is our inheritance. And then when we got there and he just verbalized what I was feeling, it meant so much to me. And so these are the people that you will want to be in alignment with when you come here. And for those of you who are watching this, who will probably never come, and you come across Africans in the global north, these are the Africans that you want to align yourself with. Whew. Now, the next group, unfortunately, they exist. These are the people that you want to avoid like the plague, like COVID. These are the scammers, baby, and they exist everywhere. These are the people that's going to be all up in your face trying to figure out what they can get. You know, even if it's just your body, but they want to get deep into your pockets. What can I get in the short term? These are the people that are going to upcharge you, them Zungu prices, as we call them, even though they might be rooted in their religion. When it comes to you, religion just don't apply. These are the people that you want to avoid. These are a minority of people. They are even far less than the PanAfricans, but they exist. Then you got the haters. I think that the haters are the smallest minority. I don't necessarily know where the hate comes from, the envy, the jealousy comes from. But in regards to human behavior, envy and jealousy is usually rooted in, let me reframe that. It's always rooted in a lack of self-esteem. And these people you want to stay far, far away from. Okay, so now that we've gone over the different types of African as it relates to this topic, let's talk about perception. Because how people perceive you is going to reflect how they treat you, how they regard you, how they feel about you. And how Africans feel about African Americans is multi-layered. It's not just black and white. And I gotta say that media plays a huge role. And then you got some subversive political shit happening, divide and conquer happening. But the largest piece of how Africans regard African Americans is based on media. And I got to say, I am a child of hip hop generation. The way that hip hop has done a disservice to African Americans in terms of how people perceive us, it's been very detrimental. What is imported in Africa as far as the music genre of hip hop is usually not conscious rap. It's gangster rap. It's the typical pop rap that is really made by the least common denominator. And then you got the whole Medea series, written, directed, produced by Tyler Perry. We may revere him because of what he's done with his own studio in Georgia. We may admire him for his wealth. We may admire him because he's paying Black actors what they are deserving of. And also he's gone on camera and stated, listen, I am speaking to a demographic that is neglected by Hollywood. I get it. My former mother-in-law, she loved some Tyler Perry production, invited me to a Tyler Perry play. And I'm like, how do I tell this woman no without insulting her? Listen, but this Medea character, Africans will watch these things and really think that that's us. And it has done us a disservice because most Africans will never meet, have never met an African American, but they feel like they know you through the camera, not even realizing that so much of the media that is produced by us is not controlled by us. There are other people controlling the narrative, giving you notes, selecting who will be next. Case in point. I'm walking in my neighborhood of Port Bell, Luzira in Kampala, Uganda, along the lake. I see some construction. I'm nosy. I go over and I ask a construction worker, oh, what's going on? And he tells me, what is your tribe? Which I used to get that a whole lot in Uganda. So, I let him know I'm American. Oh, so you are Niga. Come on now. Wait a minute. Honestly, I couldn't even be bad at the band because I know what he is consuming. You listening to American music And we calling each other nigga. Every other word, every bar, I get it. So I couldn't even be mad at the man. And I knew he wasn't trying to be malicious. But based on the information that he understood about us as a people, we refer to ourselves as niggas. Then I happened to be at this highbrow women's event, and we're sharing and we're talking, we're going in circles talking about, what we're into at the moment. And this woman is just like, right now, I'm really into ratchet content. I am watching all this ratchet content. She's listening to ratchet hip hop. She's watching Housewives of Atlanta. That's not us. That is a drastic dramatization of who we are, and it's a moneymaker. And I think it was Michelle Norris, a journalist, who said that Black culture is one of America's greatest exports and certainly one of its most profitable. And so many others have chimed in. Jay-Z is another one who has talked about African American culture being the United States' biggest export. So when you get here, you'll find that people may already have a strong perception of who they think you are. Another thing that has been so surprising to me is how most Africans think that we are the majority in the United States. It's amazing. And that's based on the media that they get. They think that we are the numerical majority, when even when you count incarcerated populations, we are about 13%. Until the public lynching of George Floyd, may he rest in peace, may his people have peace, serenity, and understanding. Listen, they thought that we was in charge. They thought we was large and in charge in the US because the media that they're getting is the P. Diddy's of the world, the Oprahs of the world, the Michael Jordans, Michael Jacksons of the world, the Whitney Houstons of the world. And so that is framing their perception. And then when the public lynching of George Floyd happened and the world rose up for us where they could. Because I remember being in Uganda and people were like, we need to do something, but they didn't feel like they would be safe protesting. And so there was very little protest happening in Uganda. But where people could, they rose up for us. And I had Africans questioning me with tears welling up in their eyes. Why did this happen? And what they saw on TV was in direct contradiction to what they had experienced with white Americans in their home countries or with white Americans in the United States. And I had to break that down for them. You also have to think about African perception of what happened to us in the United States. Slavery was nothing new. Okay, the Europeans and the Arabs were not the first to do it, and unfortunately will not be the last. However, the African concept of slavery was very different from what we experience in the United States in chattel slavery. And I recall being at one of the castles in Ghana. I can't remember if it was Elmina or if it was Cape Coast. And there were a group of young boys, maximum teenage, hustling around the castle. And I remember them saying to me, I wish my ancestors had been taken so that I could come back wealthy, a big man with money. They just don't know. They are not taught in detail. And honestly, a lot of Africans don't even learn about their own history. They learn it about their former colonizers. Whoever is funding the Ministry of Education in their country, that's the curriculum that they learn. So to expect them to really know about what happened to us is really just unrealistic. It's expecting too much. I'm experiencing the world in this body with this skin tone, with these features. And I'm about 5'5" on a good day. And in the US, I would be considered petite. Nobody's really threatened by me. People see me coming and they think I'm one of them, no matter where I am on the continent. And I have been to all regions of the continent except for Central Africa. So what I'm experiencing in the world will probably be vastly different from how somebody who is not able-bodied, somebody who is a different complexion, somebody who is a different gender would experience. And for the most part, people are welcoming, people are kind. Africans in general are welcoming and are kind. I've had a couple of little run-ins with women, but I think that that's just what people do in terms of assessing you and just determining whether or not they like you just based on your appearance, based on how you present yourself. But now I want to speak to the men because you're in a different package. I don't know what it's like to move through the world, a big, tall, able-bodied man. I don't know what that's like. And when I hear these things like, oh, Africans don't like us, it's usually coming from Black American men. even my own dad. And I'll get to that when I speak about the past. The way African American men present as a heterosexual woman, I love it. When I was on the dating market, it was something that I was looking for. That swag, that confidence, that bravado, which I learned I really shouldn't be looking for bravado because a lot of that is just veneer. Even though I say I'm from Los Angeles, I spent 2 years in junior high school in Gary, Indiana, in a working class neighborhood. My school was right next to Delaney Projects. It was rough. We had to fight. And I was there with you when niggas that didn't even go to the school would come up to the school and snatch new Nikes off their feet, leave you in your socks. I was there with you when you couldn't even fight fist to fist, cuff to cuff, because it was another nigga off to the side with a gun telling you, if you beat my boy, I'ma shoot you. I was there with you and there was nothing I could do. And so what I understand specifically about African American masculinity, generally speaking, is that it's armor. And so that's how you move through the world. Because if you don't, you will get got. Somebody will harm you. Somebody will try to take something from you. It's a learned behavior. I mean, back when I was coming up, it was even dangerous for boys, for men to smile. It's going to take some time, but when you come here, you just going to have to slowly but surely peel back the armor, because nobody here is trying to hurt you. Nobody here is trying to harm you. You are safe. How you move through the world in the U.S., perceived here it will be perceived as cocky. You African Americans, you guys think you're better than us. That's how it will be perceived. And that is the message that I've gotten from a lot of Africans. I shouldn't say a lot. Let me be more specific. From some. People will tell me, oh, you don't act like the others. There's a certain level of humility that I have, a certain level of understanding, because I've been coming here since I was 18. So you coming here in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, it's going to take some time, but you're going to have to peel back that armor and move in your newly self-actualized self. That's what I want for you. You deserve to live in peace. You deserve a life free from dirty politics, violence, and constant stress. We offer 360-degree relocation services, from personal concierge support to full relocation packages, to help you build the life you've been dreaming of here in Kenya. Purchase your relocation service today at beautyisuniversal.com and take your first step toward a softer, freer life. More details are waiting for you in the description. First off, I really do not want to deny your lived experiences, because I've had men come to me and say, like, Africans don't like us. They seem to be threatened by us. I'm not denying your lived experiences, because that's real. However, when it comes to male interactions, I feel like, I'll just say this, the perceived threat is more from between Nigerians and African men who are non-Nigerian, because I'm gonna tell you, everywhere that I've gone in Africa, I have heard African women say, oh my gosh, we love Nigerian men. I love Nigerian men. They know how to spoil you. They are not stingy. They know how to treat you. They take you places. This is what I've heard from non-Nigerian women. What I've heard from non-Nigerian African men is that these men can spend in one night what I make in 1 month. Okay, that pretty much sums it up. So in a culture where you have to pay a bride price to get married, that's a real threat. And amongst many African men, there's anxiety, there's worry around not having enough money to get married, to pay the bride price. Sometimes people say dowry, they're used interchangeably, but technically a dowry is different from a bride price. So that's a real threat. And to be quite honest with you, it's not enough money, African Americans in Africa, for that threat to be extremely tangible. But now that threat from Nigerians, or of Nigerians in regard to Nigerians, that is something that I've heard throughout many parts of Africa, because Nigerians is coming with that oil money and others. So that's where I see most of the tension. Now let's talk about the economics. And that's a real thing as well, as an African American who moved specifically to Washington, D.C., because I had never seen so many Black professionals thriving in my life. And then to experience the gentrification of Washington, D.C. is very traumatic. And so I empathize with people who are being denied access to resources, who can no longer afford housing in their hometowns, who can't even get their hair braided without being charged in dollars. I empathize with these people. But this is what I will say to that. African Americans are coming with the strength of the dollar. Even with the markets doing what they are doing, we still have a stronger currency. And so through greed, people are being displaced. I would argue that it's not my responsibility to keep my landlord in check. I also don't want to pay Mzungu prices when I go to rent a flat. I also don't want to pay Mzungu prices when I go to get my hair braided. That's part of the reason why I cut my hair off. I was just tired of negotiating with people. It's like, okay, you done told me what the price is through WhatsApp, but then when I get there and you see how much hair I have, the price goes up. Come on now. Why am I paying $52 at Kenyatta Market? I got excited there. It's not our responsibility to keep the markets level so that locals can have access to resources. That is the responsibility of governments. And later, I think I have to do a whole episode on this. Now, let's talk about the past, because I've heard this from my dad. Africans look down on us. And I think that this is something that he experienced in college during the whole Black Power movement. Now, my dad was in college, late 60s, early 70s. This is coming off of the heels of the civil rights movement. So we moving through the civil rights movement. Then right after that was the Black Power movement. Okay. And then to have somebody who was African, who you identify with that you've never seen, and then you finally meet them and they tell you, you guys aren't African. You guys are a watered down version of Africans. Your blood is diluted. That's a very cruel thing to say to somebody. I witnessed it in the early 90s when I was a student at the University of Ghana. My lighter skin bros and sisters was really struggling. I mean, I remember one guy didn't even want to leave his dorm room because he was very pro-Black and self-identified with Africa. Then got to Africa and they was like, oh no, you are not one of us. Listen, Ghanaians would tell you to your face, you are Obruni. You are not Black. You are not African. And while technically we are not African, we are daughters and sons of Africa. We are Africans born in the U.S. That's how I view myself as an African American. What did Malcolm X say? We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So I view myself through that lens as a descendant of people of African descent. This is how I view myself. And within my circle of PanAfricans, of activists, of artists, that's how we view ourselves. And then to receive that message, you are not us, is very hurtful and it's very damaging. And it's part of the reason why it's taken my dad so long to come and visit me. He's come for the last 2 years, but before that, he had never come to visit me. And he's never verbalized that, but I know that that's part of the reason. So there's also another side to that. There's also Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, who was a Pan-African, who provided shelter for African Americans that wanted to live in Ghana. Du Bois is one of them. Maya Angelou is another. He was also a Sigma, Phi Beta Sigma. He was a Pan-African, and that legacy still lasts to this day with the welcoming of African Americans, with the welcoming of other Africans throughout the diaspora. I've had certain experiences with Africans in the past that don't exist to this day. My experience with Ethiopians in the United States in the 80s is very different from my experience with Ethiopians today. It's also very different from my experience with Ethiopians in Ethiopia and in Washington, D.C., at least when I lived there in the early aughts. So we're going to say 1999 through 2011. It was very interesting because I didn't understand why there was this tension, this friction between African Americans and Ethiopians. And just in case you don't know, Washington, D.C. had the second largest population of Ethiopians outside of Ethiopia. Number one population would be in LA. But because D.C. is so small, it seemed like the population was much more concentrated. And I spoke to Ethiopians about this and they let me know it's self-esteem, issues, it's jealousy issues. I'm like, okay. I should also tell you that I've always been this person that's been trying to bridge the gap. I remember being an undergraduate student and seeing that the African students and the African American students at Indiana University was not really mixing. And I thought that there was some strife there. And there was some misunderstanding there. But I think after doing my research, most of it was just age gap and also a different drive, a different intention. Like we were all there to get an education, but it was much more intense for the African students. Most of the African students were grad students. They were older. And, you know, some people are coming from places where the whole community put their resources together for them to go to school. That's a different type of pressure. Whereas with African American students, at least at that time, a lot of us were first generation college students, second generation college students, middle class at IU, a lot of lower class. And even though there was a push, there was a drive, there was an urgency, it was a different type of urgency, and we were a lot younger. And so I had meetings. I tried to bring us together. So I've always been this person. Going back to my point about Ethiopians, listen, my experience as an African-American woman in Ethiopia was beautiful. My sister everywhere. In fact, when my mom was coming to Kenya, she was in a wheelchair and her cognitive ability, it was waning. My mom has dementia. And there was a point where she had arrived in Frankfurt and they wouldn't let my mama on the plane. And the wheelchair attendant was Ethiopian and he looked after my mother. He figured out a way to call me because my mother couldn't figure out how to call me. He got a hold of me. He told me what was going on. And long story short, we got my mother a return ticket so that she would be let on the plane. That man followed up with me after my mother had boarded and arrived. Is she okay? Did she arrive safely? I thanked him profusely. He said, do not worry. I am Ethiopian. I am African. She is my mother too. Ooh, that got me. Okay. So when I was in Ethiopia, it was like they thought I was Ethiopian. I know that in the US, we're so used to one particular ethnic group. We're used to Habeshas, but there really is a multitude of different phenotypes. And I went to the bank to exchange money and this lady kept trying all these different dialects and languages on me because she was convinced that I would understand. And I was like, ma'am, I told you, I'm not from here. You know, I was very welcome there. I think in the past that there was a certain mindset and regard towards African Americans. And I think that mindset has really shifted. And that might be due to the advent of social media. We also need to think about Haile Selassie and how he designated land to Africans in the diaspora. We call that Shashamane. It's a Rastafarian community. I've been there. I've eaten there. I've enjoyed. We also need to think about Julius Nyerere. God bless him. May he rest in peace. His legacy still exists. He also designated land in Tanzania for the children of Africa. That land is still uninhabited. It's undeveloped. It's there waiting for us to develop. I've seen it. And we also need to think about Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o, she turned down a role in Woman King because she was like, wait a minute. The Agogie engaged in the slave trade. Now y'all trying to produce this movie that tells a different story in which they were heroes, in which they attempted to prevent and thwart the slave trade. And so she said, you know what? This role is not for me. Politely, you know, because she's Kenyan at the end of the day. Politely, it's not for me. But I recall watching her speaking with people, would that be in Benin City, in that region where the Agogie were? Would that be the Benin area, Nigeria, Benin? I'm not so sure, but I remember her speaking to people that were affected by it. Now, I'm not one of these people that's just like, y'all sold us into slavery. That is a part of it. However, I feel like it's very reductive to make that generalized statement because a lot of people were affected by it. Some people had their relatives sold into slavery. Mekatalili, she is a heroine in Kenya. She is she's a member of the Giriama, am I saying that right? An ethnic group along the coast of Kenya. And when her brother was sold into slavery, that really ignited her in the fight against colonizers. Born in 1840, died in 1914. Okay. So, you know, when we say things like, oh, y'all sold us into slavery, that's a piece of it. But there's so much more and it's layered. And in general, in dealing with human interactions, there will be some conflict and hopefully there will be some coming together. So to address the matter at hand, I hope to dead this once and for all. Do Africans hate African Americans? Most Africans are just indifferent. They really don't even know enough about us to hate us. We're just those people that they see on the screen. Very entertaining. Ultimately, for those of you who are immigrating, repatting, integrating, reintegrating into African society, I would say just do a vibe check. Are you moving from a place of, I'm better than you? Are you moving from this place of, oh, let me help you because you cannot help yourself? Do that vibe check. And then also check the people in your space. Are they a Pan-African? Are they a scammer? Are they a hater? Are they indifferent? And then move accordingly. Do not let the haters and the scammers stop you from reclaiming your heritage. Thank you for joining me on this episode of BLAXIT to Africa. If you like what you heard, please share, subscribe, and leave a comment. May you thrive. May you be inspired. May you move with love and intention. Until next time.